rule, lead, influence, endure, govern. These 5 words of power are used to describe the Aristocrats, Clan Ventrue, or do they actually? I'm your Lord and Saviour, and this is the Bloody Guide to Vampire Roleplay. Ventrue are a notable lineage of vampires who take great pride in maintaining a reputation for property, leadership and honourable conduct, though the Blue Bloods themselves would say they are the proudest. They believe it is their duty to guide and lead others, and a sense of responsibility has always been a part of their ethos. They consider themselves the oldest clan, and as such, they see it as their responsibility to uphold tradition and serve as enforcers of law and order in Canine society. Legend has it that Ventrue, without an E on the end, is the antediluvian of the Ventrue clan. Shocker, I know. The true origins of this mythical figure remain shrouded in mystery, with conflicting accounts and rumours abounding. According to the Ventrue, he was the progeny of Enoch, and the first of the 3rd generation of vampires, as well as the trusted advisor of Cain himself. Some tales even have it that Cain himself saw something special in the young Ventrue and took him under his wing, eventually gifting him to Enoch for the embrace. Regardless of the embrace, Ventrue was supposedly the builder and ruler of the fabled Second City. The Ventrue antediluvian would become Cain's right-hand man and enforcer, serving as Enoch's proxy among the populace of the First City. In fact, on the very night before the deluge destroyed the First City, Cain himself visited the Ventrue antediluvian and entrusted him with the weighty responsibility of safeguarding all of his descendants, including Enoch himself. It is said that the Ventrue antediluvian was the last of Cain's children to lay eyes on the Dark Father before the Great Flood, and that he alone was tasked with carrying on Cain's legacy. To this day, the Ventrue clan cherishes their history above all else, viewing it as a sacred guide to live by and a means of justifying their positions of authority. Though they may not always be concerned with the truth, they understand the power of a good myth, and their own tale of grand achievements and conquests is one that few other clans can match. They can see themselves as the rightful heirs to their legacy of their founder, who they believe led the antediluvians for a time, and they will stop at nothing to maintain their position of superiority and leadership over the other clans. To that end, it probably would not surprise you that the Ventrue have firmly sunk its fans within mortal society, embedding it with their own. Throughout history, the Ventrue have been embraced from the ranks of nobility and privilege, including kings, merchant princes, knights, and warlords. There is a reason they are dubbed the Clan of Kings, and it was never a subtle one. As time has passed, they have adapted to the changing times, and in the modern era, they are more like politicians and CEOs than noble warriors or barren lords. They strongly support the Camarilla and the Masquerade, their prized jewels, as they believe these institutions are essential for protecting vampires from the ever-growing mortal population and maintaining their power and influence. You, dear Ventrue player-to-be, are among them, the most recent in line for the throne of the Clan of Kings, and a lot of is expected of you, but that should be something that your character should be used to, or even get a little buzz out of it. If you cannot deal with the heat to problem solve and turn those issues into profitable solutions, you're not worthy of the blood. It is often the case that players adorn the mantle of blue blood for wealth and power, already at the top of their game, but if you've maxed all that out in the budding stages of character creation, you've already hit the ceiling and cannot fly any higher. Perhaps your character is a secretary who wishes to call the shots themselves. Perhaps you are a middle class rather than upper class. You are a politician that demands change rather than making change. And who is to say that your character mingles with the upper echelons of society? Perhaps you are part of a secret society or run a club or music label. My very first vampire character was a Ventrue crime boss that sold drugs and hookers in equal measures. They ruled the streets and the bedroom, but not boardrooms. I did, however, design them in a way that there was room for improvement, as I had a part of their backstory that he showed potential, that he was something in an experiment. As with any business deal, risk-taking is minimal unless it is so wild that one could consider a gamble which would excite all those involved, merely because the chance of success is low but the payoff would be huge. Whilst it is hard to think of elder Ventrues in stuffy offices getting excited over anything, something about you has to garner, at the very least, their curiosity to consider you for the embrace. What riches do you bring to your sire, clan, and Camarilla? What could make things very exciting is your character being one of the sort of individuals whose embrace wasn't planned, a feeding gone wrong, or you were thralled as a ghoul and made to protect and serve your domitor for years before receiving your promotion. The class divide in this instance is greater and more noticeable here, and it should be something for you to consider as well. To think further outside the box, a Ventrue will embrace someone whose skill set is lacking in the clan, such as the gangster example I gave earlier, or a bodyguard who would naturally be some more forward in combat department areas. Bobby Weatherbottom is a hacker, the first non-Nosferatu to access ShrekNet. In the digital age, where companies and people are ruined in a single tweet, it would make sense for any Ventrue to be on the top of social media. Even with these examples, the opportunity for the Ventrue to rule over is still pretty present here, and that is the important thing with any Ventrue. It is their birthright to rule, even if you have to wait for your superior to kick the bucket before you can take their place. The same, however, cannot be said of the Anarch Ventrues, the adorably named Free Ventrue. They are not free in the sense, like all vampires, are trapped in the eternal struggle and the jihad, but are in many ways worse off. Existing in the movement is like an exiled king with his tail between his legs. Little is done to earn the respect of your peers, but because of your lineage, it is demanded all the same. You, arch-enemies of the Anarchs, are not trusted, and your status of high clan will mean very little here, but the skill sets of dominance and memory erasure and planting are. They, much like their Camarilla ilk, fiercely guard their hold on wealth and power and bristle at the mere suggestion that their chowder might challenge their traditional monopoly. Of course, this rigid grip on authority drives some Ventrue to rebel and join the Anarch movement. Overbearing sires can provide stifling, leaving their chowder feeling trapped and resentful. Without the chance to establish their own spheres of influence, a Ventrue child's existence becomes a mere trophy for their sire and a prison for themselves. They are driven by a desire to redistribute power more equably among the kindred, giving them a chance to finally grasp the wealth and influence that their sires hold just out of reach. The Ventrue Anarchs' ambition is a driving force, and they are unashamed to admit it. They want what others have, and they will do what it takes to attain it. Ventrue Anarchs often have access to high society, making them valuable assets to the movement, which means they often, but not always, act as diplomats, tacticians, statesmen, and organizers, stepping forward to lead the ranks of the Anarchs in times of open conflict. They are skilled negotiators and strategists, always on the lookout for opportunities to turn their rivals' weaknesses to their own advantage. Some are bitter and cynical, but others channel their passion into brilliant tactics, striking deals and advancing the Anarch's cause. Despite waving a different flag, Free Ventrues are still the vampiric embodiment of establishment. Alternatively, you can join or start a cult. Religion and faith are much stronger in the Camarilla than it ever has been before, and the freer Anarchs are open to a bit of experimentation, as well as emotional, mental, and spiritual expression. Two of these cults are Ventrue driven, and neither of its founders fit into the stereotypical Ventrue mold, at least not ones pertaining to the modern night setting, or indeed the ones belonging to the Camarilla and Anarch, which leaves only the Sabbat and Dark Ages, but both of those are conversations for different times. What I will conclude with before discussing more of the mechanical considerations will be a segue with the clan's unique bane, their feeding restriction, which can be as vague or as specific as you wish, but it is best to have it tied to your character's backstory and lifestyle in some sense. For example, if your Ventrue has a thing for smokers, is it because your character in life was a heavy smoker that could show David Barry a thing or two? Or is it because you have a strong, unresolved feelings to that heavy smoker lover or rival? If the character only drinks from blue-eyed, caffeinated women, is that a reflection of your embrace, caught off guard as you sipped that instant coffee that eventual night? Or is your character a dirty bastard who loves his women roasted? Maybe you can only feed on two very particular individuals because of your intense emotions to them, be good or bad. Make the feeding restriction make sense, unless you want to pursue the spicy option of letting the ST decide what it is and you, the hopeful fledgling that doesn't know their arse from their elbow, work it out for themselves. To that end, your choice of prey will dictate how you'll go to feed, but the easiest way is to establish a herd of sorts. But Timmy the Fresh Ventrue will have to work out how to do that, and so do you, with your new gifts. The Ventrue are the masters of the domain, their domain, and they use their disciplines with care and precision. They know how to manipulate their subjects and deal with threats that come their way. They are the rulers of the night, and their power and influence are felt throughout their cities. Dominate, in particular, is pretty much the signature discipline of the Ventrue. They will use it to exert their will over their subjects, bending them to their desires with a mere thought. With a single command, a Ventrue can order a mortal to bare their neck, allowing them to feed with ease. They can also erase all memory of feeding, ensuring that the Ventrue remains intact. Presence is a tool that the Ventrue use to build their influence over others. They seek to tame the vampiric court and build the love and devotion of others towards their rule. With presence, they can make themselves appear more attractive, charming, and irresistible to their subjects. They can also use presence to show off their power, making others see how easily they can acquire vessels. This is particularly useful for hungry blue-blooded kindred who value the conversation of time and resources. Finally, you have fortitude, which all Ventrue worth their salt should have. It allows them to withstand even the hardest of attacks, whether it be an army or a single assassin. What good is a king that cannot survive the mightiest of battles? A Ventrue with great understanding of fortitude can shrug off most of what is thrown at them with ease, whilst others, lesser kindred, falter under such hostile conditions. With this wide range of functions, there are many ways you can bend predator types to fit your kindred concepts, but here is what I would suggest. Most Ventrue would benefit from Osiris or Scene Queen, feeding from their followers and loyal subjects, doing as minimal work as possible. Trapdoor could fit into this as well, and depending on the permission of the ST, Montero and Extortionist would also be appropriate for crime-related Ventrue. A blue blood that is restricted to their family or a type or group of people may wish to consider Cleaver or Roadside Killer, the latter from Let the Streets Run Red. Remember that whatever you pick, it should complement the feeding restriction. There are many lore sheets you can assign to your character, but here are some of the ones I think fit well with tonight's clan. A Ventrue wanting to do as little as possible to get to their blood, or perhaps desperate to find exactly what it is they're looking for, may wish to consider taking one of the dots in the circulatory system. Most Ventrue characters will be aligned with the Camarilla, and there are plenty of lore sheets for that. They are excluding any NPCs the character may wish to buddy up with, Convention of Thorns, Sect War Veteran and High Clan from the Core Book, Anarch Revolt and Ruins of Carthage from Anarch, as the Ventrue were responsible for that falling. You also have Bad Art Industries from Chicago by Night, Archons and the Wolf Pack from Chicago Folios, The Promise of 1528 from Cults of the Blood Gods, the Boston Camarilla from Boston by Night, Agents of Justicar Parr from Fall of London, and St. Paul from issue 2 of the Winter's Teeth comic series. For the inverse, Anarch Ventrue would benefit from Anarch focus lore sheets, but to save myself from hashing out another long list, you can refer to the Bloody Guide to the Bruiser. Finally, there are some Ventrue only lore sheets you may wish to consider, such as Descendant of Hardestat from the Core Book, Pure Ventrue Lineage from the Camarilla Sourcebook, Descendant of Lodin from Chicago by Night, and Spear of Orphea from Forbidden Religions. There are many ways one can build a character. Some of them are wrong, but most of them are right. Ultimately, it should be the narrative that drives the stats, powers, and mechanics that works with and against them. These are just my takes, and mine alone. How would you build a character belonging to this vampire clan? What wouldn't you do? What would you add to shake things up and make that concept just a little bit spicy? Let me know in the comments below. To be kept updated, follow the Lore by Night VTM Instagram and Blue Sky pages to find out when we upload each episode. You can also find out by subscribing to the YouTube channel and clicking on the little bell, and you'll be immediately notified when the latest episode is live. Until next time, farewell.